In this episode, we sit down with Stuart Sandeman. Stuart is the Nike's breathwork trainer. He's worked with the England football team. His book, Breathe In, Breathe Out, is a Sunday Times bestseller. From very sadly losing his girlfriend, the grief of losing a loved one, he found breathwork and ultimately found himself again. It's fair to say that Stuart is an expert in his field. This episode is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. Stuart.
Yes,
Thank you so much for joining me.
Our pleasure.
So, breathwork trainer, author, Breathe In, Breathe Out, currently working with Nike. You've got some really cool things happening. For people that don't know about breathwork, how would you describe it? How would you describe how it works and how it's helped you?
Okay, yeah. So, breathwork is a tool that we can use to basically consciously control our breath. And the nice thing about our breath is it's part of our autonomic nervous system. So once we can understand how to use our breath, we can use it to calm stress. We can use it to amplify our body if we're needing a bit more energy. We can tap into deeper states of awareness. So it's basically this golden bullet, not even a silver bullet, this golden bullet that you have everywhere you go that maps your human experience that you can use to shift your state. So whatever state you want to be in, and that might be, like I said, just finding a bit more calm when you're feeling stressed. Life can get stressful sometimes. If you can't sleep at night, using your breath to slow everything down and start to trick your body and mind into operating the way you want it.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I have in the past tried different breathing techniques. Something that I'll do in the morning. I haven't done it recently, to be completely honest, but was breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4.
Yeah.
What do you find is the more common breathwork technique that has worked for you? Based on what you've just said, I imagine there's various different techniques out there based on the state that you're in. Yeah. But is there a more common one that you tend to recommend or train people on?
I cover all aspects of breath and breathing performance and really tapping into what do you want? What is your goal? And that even a bit deeper than that. So I'd probably say breathwork comes in 3 different pillars. The first pillar is kind of what you talked about there, like functional breathing, understanding that you're feeling a certain way, you want to shift it. So tapping into your nervous system to make this change. Very on a basic level, we'd be looking at, so your in-breath switches you on. It's like putting fuel in the car. Your out-breath switches you off. So in-breath, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up. Out-breath, heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down. So you can start to tap into that with different ratios of in-breaths and out-breaths. So if you're breathing in for 4 and out for 8, where you've got a nice long drawn out breath, that calms the nervous system, you move into a parasympathetic state. Your in-breath is your sympathetic drive, so that's your more active state. So just understanding that basics, you can start to create, well, I often say if you're stressed, if in doubt, breathe it out. Nice long drawn out breath, and you're going to feel a bit calmer than you did before doing that one breath. If you're looking to get a bit more energy, you might want to start breathing a bit quicker and a bit more activated. So these kind of exercises. And then there's other aspects of our day when we're feeling distracted, or if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, there's ways of balancing your breath. So if your in-breath is switching you on, that's sympathetic drive, your out-breath is switching you off. If you start to balance your breath, so 4 in, 4 out, or a common one is like box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. That starts to balance the nervous system. And this is all, so if you go back to the very basics of breathing, you take a breath, breathe in the air around you. Oxygen is what our cells need, combines with glucose, turns on a pump, creates electricity. Carbon dioxide is created in that process and is removed from the body. So breathing's really about this energy exchange. That's what breathing's all about, is basic starting block. And then we can tap into that because that energy exchange is happening on what energy we need for any moment, but also what energy our mind thinks we need to keep us safe. So breathing is really, if we had something in our environment that was stressful, let's say the obvious thing would be the tiger comes in the room, the fight or flight response kicks in. So our senses pick up that threat, signal our breath moves, we need more energy to fight off the tiger or leg it to safety. So that's basically what's happening with our breathing. And the interesting thing about our mind is it doesn't know the difference between the tiger in the room and the tiger in our mind. Our to-do list, the should-do list, the worries, the anxieties. And we can be sending the signal from our mind through our thoughts, maybe negative thoughts, sending to our breath changes and sends a signal of alertness to our brain. So it's this two-way street. We're thinking in our mind, feeling in our body, driven by a breathing pattern. But because we can step in and override it, these techniques, these in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, starts tapping into that. So we might have something happening in our mind, which we're aware of. I'm feeling a bit stressed, maybe I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, or I'm feeling distracted, or I'm wide awake and I can't sleep. Then using a specific breathing rhythm will then tap into our nervous system and send a new signal to our brain.
So 2 common things that I find with people is anxiety and the ability or the lack of ability to sleep. Something I have recently got better at is my sleep, but historically I've always struggled with my sleep. Anxiety is something I've not really struggled with, but I'm aware that obviously a lot of people do. So for the listeners, what would be 2 breathing techniques, first of all, to help somebody that is struggling to sleep? If you're in bed, overthinking, what would you recommend?
Yeah. I'd probably recommend the same technique, just to keep it real simple.
Okay.
The same technique for both.
Right.
Just so that you have that on your tool belt. And that's why I say if in doubt, breathe it out, because it's just like simple. Often when we're stressed or anxious, well, our brain moves from a prefrontal cortex of our mind into the limbic system because we're moving into this safety mechanism. So if in doubt, breathe it out. In for 4, and then hold for 4, and then breathe out through your mouth for 8. Really simple.
I don't want to fall asleep. I'm just going to give it a go.
Yeah, let's do it. So breathe in, belly rise. So what you've done there is you've breathed straight into your chest.
Okay.
So this is quite common. There's that upper thoracic breathing. We take a breath, and we breathe in up here.
Okay.
And some people are breathing that way day in, day out. And the pure mechanics of it is the chest, the intercostals are the secondary muscles, but if we're using that as our primary breathing muscles, we're just breathing faster and too much.
Okay.
So that is sending an alarm bell to your brain. So it's maybe not at rest, but when you're taking a deeper breath there. So you really want to engage your diaphragm, which is your primary breathing muscle. So let's sit up straight, place our hands on our belly, and we're going to breathe in through our nose and breathe into our hands. Okay, let go through the mouth. So I love it because we can do, I feel like I want to jump over and
do it. Yeah, do it.
Right. Okay. We want you to breathe. I know people are listening right now, but I've got my hand on Tom's belly and his abdomen, and I want you to breathe in. And if you are listening, you can actually do this yourself. So really just get in and breathe into my hand. So breathe into my hand, belly will come out. See, still this is coming up first.
I'm struggling with that.
So we want to be breathing. What's interesting, and I love that we've done this, because everyone has their own breathing archetype. And I talk about that in my book, like finding your breathing archetype. Because if our breath is sending a signal to our brain about our environment, then different breathing archetypes match some personality traits, which is really interesting. And for yourself, it looks like you've got maybe a bit of a reverse breathing pattern.
Right.
Which means your chest is coming up before your torso. So your diaphragm's not fully engaged. So you're not actually getting the most from your breath. And it takes a little bit longer to get that flowing. So now this time, instead of you put your hands there and imagine breathing into your hips, just nice and slow. That's better, way better already. And breathe out through your mouth. Okay, and again. So breathing into your hips. If you're listening, you can do this as well. So our hands are on our hips, and we're breathing in, seeing if we can get the breath all the way down and out through your mouth. And relax your shoulders. There we go. Good. So breathe in into your hips. That's it. You've nailed it. And out. Now, it might feel a little bit strange because you've not been breathing that way until now. You might think, oh, I'm not getting my usual breath, or it feels a little bit awkward because you've almost been used to this quick fix of breathing. Let's go for one more. So breathe in, belly rise. And breathe out, let go. Good. So we'll add some counts now. So we'll breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8. So breathe in for 4, belly rise. Hold for 4. And breathe out for 8. Nice and slow, drop your shoulders. Good. Let's do one more. Breathe in, belly rise. Hold. And out for 8. Let it go. Great.
Wow.
How are you feeling?
Calm. Calm.
You might be feeling sleepy. We now might need to do an energizer to wake you back up.
I felt like, sorry to interrupt, I felt like everything around me just went,
Yeah.
like even the noises. I felt before we started doing that, there was a lot of like external noise. And then just from doing that, I felt everything became quieter.
Great.
Is that quite common?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. What you're doing is you're taking control of your nervous system.
I love it.
And for yourself, I recommend doing that every single day. We did 3 or 4 breaths there, just like we've done, because your natural breathing pattern, for some reason, you're breathing up in your chest. Now, when I work with clients and when I work with also all walks of life, even elite athletes, what we've done there, we were doing an exercise, but I noticed straight away that your actual breathing mechanics isn't flowing correctly. And for yourself, it moved quite quick. Within a couple of breaths, you were like actually getting your diaphragm engaged. So it's like maybe when you go to the gym and a PT is saying, you got to engage your glutes. And you're like, I don't quite know how I'm doing it. So it's just retraining the mind to use those muscles properly. You're breathing much better now.
I'm consciously thinking about it now.
Yeah. So you want to you're consciously thinking about it because you're having to change the habit.
Going to be subconscious.
But with practice, your breath will reset. And your breath knows. I often say babies are the breathing gurus because we're all born perfect breathers. That you're nailing it now. You've got a big grin. But often when I work with people, so why aren't they breathing like that right now? For you, because it's moved that quickly, it's just been a bad habit of breathing. Now, that bad habit of breathing can come because of clothing choice, tight jeans. It can be, or girls with a high-waisted or bras that are the wrong size. It can start to constrict our breathing. It can also be holding your stomach in for like looking good, aesthetics, holding the six-pack in. We start to get used to bracing ourselves, or if you're used to kind of bracing your core. It can also be a habit that then we start breathing in our chest. Because when you start breathing with your diaphragm, fully your belly starts to come out a little bit. So maybe we're people holding it in. But often we hold our breath to stop ourselves from feeling. And this is the deeper aspect of what I do.
This episode of the Tom's Talks podcast is proudly sponsored by Unthin, the hair growth company that's helping people feel more confident in their own skin. From supplements to topical product, Unthin is deeply rooted in the science behind helping people with a healthy hair and scalp. You can use the code TOM20, that's TOM20 for 20% off at the checkout. Thank you to Unthin to supporting honest conversations around mental health.
So I mentioned 3 pillars, and we've kind of covered the first one there around taking control of your nervous system, feeling a certain way and changing it, using your breath we did 4, 4, 8 there, which would be great for anxiety, great for sleep as well, because we're calming everything down. But if you're always noticing you're stressed, or you're always feeling anxious, or you're identifying as an anxious person, or you're going through a challenge in your life, there can be an underlying reason that we contracted our muscles and held our breath. And usually this is to do with emotion, to stop ourselves from feeling. When we experience emotion, something happens. That might be a thought, might be something in our environment. Our brain triggers our body releases chemistry in the body, and we have an emotional experience, an outburst. So we have this cycle of an emotional release that might be tears, it might be laughter, it might be joy, and each one of those expressions has a breathing pattern. So laughter, our breath goes like this. It jiggles up and down. Or if we're really feeling great, our breath is open and expanding. When we're stressed, it contracts and we hold on. If we're feeling fearful, we hold on as well. We get tension in our body. And if we are experiencing an emotion and we don't want to feel it, we hold our breath to stop the emotion flowing. So if I didn't want to laugh right now, I'd hold my laughter back by holding my breath. If I didn't want to cry and I just had some bad news, I'd hold my breath to stop the tears flowing. So when we start to have these habitual holding patterns in our breathing, we're holding our breath. So we're tensing our muscles somewhere in our breathing cycle, and then we're sending a signal from our breath to our brain about our environment that's not necessarily true. So our perception of our experience in life, our reality, starts to feel skewed. We start to feel more anxious. We start to feel more on edge. Maybe we start to have trouble sleeping or digestion. And it can all be down to an experience where we've not fully expressed ourselves. And that work is just a very powerful way of using our breath to open up into those space. And that's a big part of what I do as well. So that first pillar we mentioned is about taking control of the nervous system to feel a certain way, to whether we want to energize, balance, or relax. The second pillar that for me is one of the most powerful aspects of what I teach is actually about letting go of control, because we're holding on, we're trying to control too much. And that's a deeper process of the letting go, really. I mentioned I'm fascinated by the mind and the connection between the mind and the body, and the breath being that bridge between both. And I'm fascinated by what makes us think the way we think, what makes us triggered in certain scenarios. And the breath is one of these drivers here. So if we talked about the tiger analogy, tiger comes in the room, we see the tiger, hear the roar, and our brain sees it triggers a threat, our breathing changes and we leg it, or we fight off the tiger, or we freeze altogether, the third response. But if we switch a tiger to a dog, okay? If a dog came into the room right now, one of two things would happen. You'd see the dog and you'd get excited. And your breath would open and expand, and you'd feel joy and you'd feel excitement, and you'd run towards the dog and you'd scratch it behind the ears. Yeah. Or you'd see the dog and it's like the tiger's come in the room. You have that fear response. You hold on, you get tight, your breath changes, you maybe leg it back, you step back. So why do you think someone would be excited by a dog or scared of a dog?
Depending on how the dog comes in.
Yeah, it could be.
And previous experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our brain is wired from our previous experiences, our belief systems. At 3 years old, dog barks at you, nips your hand, your brain fires and wires a pathway, there's emotion involved, so it gets glued, and you create a belief dogs are not safe. That's imprinted into your brain. And then you filter the world when you see a dog. Before you can even consciously think about it, the brain says, danger. So you leg it away. So that's a felt experience that's happened in your life, but it's driven by a breathing pattern when it happens. Or a learnt experience when somebody else says, don't ever go near a dog, bite your hand off. Or we have collective experience as well. So a lot of the work that I do is going back to why is somebody's breathing pattern going the way it is? And why is their brain triggering that breathing pattern in a scenario? Like, why does that person get really anxious in that moment? Maybe they're going to speak in a podcast and they're feeling so nervous, where somebody else is very confident on that. That fascinates me. Why can some people harness this potential more than others? And is there a way that we can all access that? And what the work that I've been doing through breath is exactly that.
I'm just thinking of a good friend that I went to primary school with and then reconnected with over probably the last 12 months. A lovely lady called Emily, and she had a really bad experience growing up with a dog. She got bit by a dog when she was really young, and even now, 20 years later, she has an extreme phobia of dogs. Obviously, you can understand why from the experience she had. So, being the expert in your field, if Emily was going to come in here today and work with you, knowing that previous trauma and that existing phobia, what kind of technique would you go through with her to release that trauma?
Yeah, great question. And it's a more dynamic practice. The trauma release side of breathwork is more dynamic. It's basically shifting the body chemistry. So we use something, connected flowing breath. And this is not something I'd say practice at home right now, because you'd want a facilitator with you, because it can take you to a place it can access old memory and emotion. So it can be quite a powerful experience. And it's getting your breath flowing, first of all, like we said, using the diaphragm, opening it up, and getting the rhythm and rate moving so the chemistry in our body shifts. We move into a very alkaline state that, and I get in there and start releasing tension from the body, because where we've held tension is from these fear experiences. So it's about opening up the breath, really opening up through this more dynamic but relaxed exercise that creates a lot of energy shift in the body. We're changing the chemistry of the body, and this is starting to influence our mind and how we are perceiving in that moment. We move into this sort of less ordinary state, and we can access parts of the brain that we can't ordinarily access in our conscious day. So it's a really good tool, a therapeutic tool, and that's actually how I came into breathwork. It was through that side. And it's interesting because we're talking about sort of somebody with a dog phobia, but that a very simple example, it could be interchanged for anything. Now, I came into breathwork through grief. I lost my girlfriend to cancer.
Sorry, Mum.
And it was a really hard time for me. And interestingly enough, yeah, that was a traumatic experience as an adult. But the reason I couldn't process the emotion, where I'd say my dog bark or bite, was a belief system that big boys don't cry. So I built this notion of strength, which I thought was a good thing. I'd done martial arts my whole life. My teddy bear was called Tough Ted growing up. Even my judo coach, we called him Superman. There was all this sort of men are strong, growing up in Scotland. And I always thought that was a good thing. And it was for many, many years. It'd be like, right, I can do this. It was a go do this attitude, believing in myself. And then when she passed away, I didn't know how to express my emotion. I could slam a door and punch a wall, so I could express it through anger, or I could just close off and not speak to anybody and not leave my room, withdraw. So there were two things, but I couldn't cry, I couldn't access the emotion at all. And it wasn't until something just popped up online, a breathing workshop, and it was Mother's Day. And I thought, my mum will love that. She's into yoga. That's as far as I thought about it. At the time I was working in music. So I took my mum along to this class thinking I was just going to maybe do some breathing in and breathing out, a bit of yoga stuff. But it wasn't. It was this deeper format of breathing. And in that session, we were breathing in this way, and I started breathing, and I could feel a lot of energy moving in my body, sort of pins and needles, but deeper than that. I felt like I'd plugged my finger into the main socket, like a lot of energy, like shaking body. I thought, oh, this is strange. And I carried on going. And then before I knew it, I felt like my girlfriend was there, holding my hand, speaking to me. It was so bonkers, so bizarre. And then I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And I let out this like roars of emotion, unconsolable, but it felt so good. And it felt like I was just freeing. I was like pouring out, just turning on the tap and pouring out all this tension, emotional tension that I'd been, not just through grief. I realized in those moments that it was just years and years of tension held in my breathing. because our breath, or our body stores this trauma and emotion. Bodies are made of cells. Cells are made of atoms. Atoms are just energy. And our whole body is made of this energy. So our body is just vibrating in the present. And it's our mind that has this idea of time. But if we've not allowed ourselves to feel something because our mind said, big boys don't cry, it's not safe to cry, so we've held it in, then we're creating tension to hold it in unconsciously. Our breath pattern is changing again. And we're not allowing ourselves to fully feel. So that was what brought me into that style of work. And
that's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it was amazing. Incredible. And that's why I'm here. And that was, it was such a weird experience. That first one that I thought, right, I'm going mad. Someone spiked my drink. That was my other option. I was like, there's no way I was just breathing and this experience was happening. Or this third option, I was like, well, or maybe there is something here in breathing. And I went back. I had no intention of becoming a breathing coach. I had no intention.
How long ago was this? Sorry.
This was like 10 years ago now. And I just thought, wow, this is really helping me. And it was helping me through grief. And it was like my secret fight club that I'd go to. I'd go and I'd feel and I'd cry. And it gave me so much relief and space. And I was doing a lot of CrossFit at the time with some of my old judo mates who've got a CrossFit gym up in Scotland. And I was noticeably flying up that leaderboard. I was like, the only difference is I'm doing this breathing thing. And the voice in my head was being much kinder to me. And just generally life started to flow. And I was still working through grief. And this was all happening quite quickly. But I was just doing this breathing exercise. And then I went off to try and discover a bit more, because that lineage of teaching was very spiritual and very kind of, you're having this spiritual experience. But my very logical mind was saying, well, what's happening in the body? What's actually happening in my body and mind? Can we kind of find it a bit more? So I went off and trained in that particular practice, and then I just wanted to know more, and I wanted to learn more, and I learn more about breath and breathing, what's happening in these experiences, and what else is out there. What do scientists know about breath work and breathing, and what do the yogis know about this, and how can we start to bridge this gap and try and explain and understand, which is an ongoing process, but it's fascinating that we can tap into this. Yeah, you're having these tools day to day, but then tapping into when life does throw challenges and experiences, or maybe even not having to go through derailment or like a grief experience, but maybe getting to an age where you think, I'm not feeling great, and I don't know why this is, and maybe this isn't working for me anymore. Can I start to use my breath as a tool to open me up? To open up to these different awarenesses, to open up to more presence and feel what you need to feel so you can move forward with a bit more clarity.
I think that's absolutely amazing. The fact that you turned the pain of losing your girlfriend, which I'm so sorry to hear about that. I can't imagine how difficult that was, but you've now turned such an awful experience and found something that you love and seen the benefits that it had with you, but now you want to teach other people and use that.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely amazing, mate, and I really do take my hat off to you. I think, wow, this is why I started the podcast.
Yeah.
From losing my brother, the struggles that I had, and then sharing my story and adversity, I thought to myself, I'm just one person with one story of overcoming adversity. There is millions of people out there that have also got a story to tell, of either overcoming adversity or knowledge they want to share on how they can help people. And, I don't think you realize how many people will listen to this and listen to you and think, wow, like I'm going to try that, or that's already helped me. Because how many people do you know that at some point sadly struggle with their mental health, but never find a way of actually finding a way of improving it?
Yeah.
Because up until today, I would have never thought that breathwork would actually have that much of an impact.
Yeah.
For me, it was exercise, nutrition, and like limiting alcohol and all that kind of stuff. But reality that could be the missing piece for so many people.
Yeah, well, it was for me, and I think it is for many people. when I go back to that grief state, and I know you've been through grief as well and can relate, but I didn't want to talk to anybody. So many people were family and people close to me knew I wasn't in a good place and they were worried for me, but I was fine. I'm fine. I'll deal with it. I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine. That's all I'd say to everybody. I didn't want to talk about it. I really didn't want to talk about it. And people say, you should maybe go and see a therapist. And you're going, I was like, what are they going to do? I don't want to talk. Like, she's gone. Like, what can they do about it? Nothing. I was in that frame of mind and I genuinely did not want to talk. And you could say, go and speak to this person more. I just didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to open up. And I think that was, again, this strength thing. Like, no, I've got it. I'm fine. I'm strong. I'll deal with it.
My experience was the same, yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't until doing breathwork and the experience that I shared that all of a sudden I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to talk about it at all. I could just feel. And for me, that is the missing piece, because talking is a little bit limited. I know we're talking now, but it's limited when we're looking at feeling, because we can't always describe our feeling. The example, like if you'd never been in a swimming pool, and I jumped in a swimming pool right now, and came out, and you said, "How does it feel?" I'm like, "Oh well, it's wet and it's slippery and it's cooling and you cannot experience the feeling unless you jumped in the pool." And words are amazing, but sometimes it puts things in boxes because everyone's experience of those words is very different. One person's anxiety might be very different from another. But the breath takes us back to the feeling. So we're jumping in the pool. And with that feeling, we allow that integration cycle to happen. So when I said we're holding on to stop ourselves from feeling, research says that emotion, the life cycle of emotion is 90 seconds. If we fully feel it, which is insane because people hold on to things for way longer than 90 seconds, me included. And the way that we hold on, like I said, is holding our breath and stopping that natural flow. So when we go into this process, we allow ourselves to feel the unfelt feelings or feel the feelings that we've numbed ourselves from feeling, whether that is with alcohol or other things, substances or avoidance. And that's why I think it's such a untapped resource, because we can access the deeper layers of our minds just by going into these deeper breath processes.
This podcast is fueled by Prep. Prep is a nutrition-first meal prep company that allows me to have high-quality meals without spending hours in the kitchen. As a business owner that prioritizes their health and fitness, Prep allows me to hit my goals for the day without sacrificing loads of time. My personal favorite is the Cajun salmon, but if that's not for you, then there is plenty of other options as well, including vegetarian and halal. And the best part, you get 10% off your order when you use the code TOM10 at the checkout. That's TOM10 at prepuk.com. Do you know, for human beings, one thing I think that why there is such an epidemic of mental health is because there is a lack of connection, social connection, inner connection. It's like the world at the minute is a million miles an hour and so many distractions, and you never really feel present in where you are and what you're doing. And I feel like based on how you've just explained breath work, it not only helps deal with many aspects, previous trauma and sleep and anxiety and all these other things that you've just explained, but for me it sounds like it can really help you just be connected to yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Which
I don't think a lot of people are. I find myself getting to a Friday. Sorry to interrupt you. Getting to a Friday and thinking the last 5 days have just gone like that, and I feel like I've not really been in the moment with a lot of things that have happened.
Yeah. And
that's the one thing me and my wife Amy were talking about this today. Like, the thing that frightens me the most about life is that I'm going to get to 85 years old and it's just going to have gone like that. And I'm going to look back and think I wasn't in the moment in so many things that had happened when we have kids or grandkids or, you know, all these beautiful experiences. And that's the thing that frightens me the most, is like I want to be truly present and really in the moment with life and everything that happens, the good and the bad, because I want to get to my, you know, elder years later on in life and look back and think I made the most of it, but I was truly there when it happened. And I really feel like how you've explained breathwork, that's how you can really tap into that inner being, that inner human, and just be the person that you want to be and fully connected with yourself, but everyone around you as well.
Absolutely. And you nailed it there beautifully. Breath is bringing you back to presence, and that's the kind of the mindfulness and I guess the meditative part of breath and breathing. We're so stuck in our heads, and that's why things just fly by, because we're thinking ahead the whole time. We're maybe ruminating about the past, or we're fearful of the future. You're saying, I'm worried that I'm gonna get to 80 and I've not experienced presence. So already thinking about this future self instead of just being here, like taking a moment, taking a breath. In those moments, we're like, oh, I want to be fully present for this. And that comes back to that first pillar. Like, I often just say, like, transitions through your day or in moments, take a breath just before that moment. That might be, I don't know, even before a Zoom call online. Instead of just waiting, twiddling your thumbs or scrolling, stop, pause, feel your feet, take a breath. Okay, I'm breathing my diaphragm. That feels good. Okay, I'm here. And then we can start. That might be putting your keys in at the end of the day after work, so you can be fully present with your girlfriend or your family or whoever. Keys in the door, turn the keys. All right, let's take a breath, so I can be here and come back and remove some of that noise. If there's parts of your life or inner workings, aspects that you want to shift and change. And we've talked about trauma, but I also, in my book, I talk about like sort of big T, which is the grief or the PTSD and the things we associate trauma with. But there's also all these little T's, these limiting beliefs that are still traumatic. And that might be having a tape in our mind that says, I'm not good enough, or I'll never get X or Y. And that for me is still the trauma response, because that's playing out in every interaction that you do, every decision you make, whether that's work, partner, or just showing up in your world. If you're running this tape in your mind that I'm not good enough or doubting yourself, then you're not fully present either, and you're not experiencing the full joy that you can have in your life, because we're stuck in these old tapes. And the breathwork practices are really good for just moving through some of that old habits, the old tapes in our minds, the limiting beliefs, so that we can have more presence. And with more presence comes more love, more expression, more joy, and all these things that we hear about, but we don't always access because we're too stuck in our minds.
Amazing. I've learned so much already. I think it's incredible what you do. I really, really do. And I'm excited to move forward and although I had tried them previously, but making it more consistent part of my routine and habits.
Yeah.
100%. I know you work with a lot of high performers, CEOs. You're working with Nike currently, which is amazing. What do you find is the more common traits with people like that at that level? And how do you find that breath work helps them? I can already sort of imagine what you're going to say based on what we've already spoke about, but I'm intrigued because somebody as myself, you know, I'm the MD of one company, do the motivational speaking, do the podcast, you know, I'm very aware I've got a lot of things going on, and, you know, stress is something that comes into my life quite frequently. I feel like I do manage it quite well, but I'm interested to know from your experience and the people that you've worked with, you know, these high levels of CEOs and you know, people at Nike. What's your experience working with those kind of people?
We could probably split that into sports performance athletes.
Yep.
And then the CEOs that might want to be athletes as well. Often they are. They're A-types, and they're training hard and working hard at the same time. let's start with the business or the CEOs. It's about creating space in their day and space in their mind. They've got many tabs, they're running teams, they've got lots of high pressure decisions to make and time management. And it's really about that ability to make those sound decisions that will push the needle in the right direction. Not working out of fear, not working out of a stress response. Stress is natural. It's going to happen. And I'm not here to say like, oh, just do this, stress will disappear. It's about how do we manage those stressful situations better? How do we move through adversity? How do we bounce back? How do we build resilience through breath so that we can manage situations and show up calm, clear, with clarity, with focus, and make the best decisions we can in those moments? And that comes, I always just advocate having a daily practice for everyone. Like start your day with intention and start that intention with breath as well. So we showed the very simple breathing exercise at the beginning. It might just be, right, okay, I'm going to start my day before doing anything. I'll get out of bed. And even before I go to the gym, just sit, pause, take those breaths. You might already know what you've got to do that day. You've seen your calendar, you know what's happening. Think, well, what would make today the best day it could be possibly be? How can I show up in a way? How can I be more present? What have I got going on? Breathe to balance your whole body and just creating that space. I also use a lot of mental rehearsal in those moments with those leaders.
So just to stop you there, mate, I'm really intrigued about the morning.
Yeah.
It's something I speak very often about in the talking I do is win the morning, win the day.
Absolutely.
And you've just said set the intention. And something I got into the habit but then got out of the habit was doing some kind of meditation or breath work in the morning. And speaking to an expert like yourself, something that I want to instill back into my day is that ritual in the morning. Because at the minute I'm kind of get up, splash some cold water on my face, go to the gym. I'm just boom, 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 boom. Like I know it's just go, 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 go. But again, going back to that being present element of things, I want to be present, and I know the breath work is going to help with that. Say tomorrow morning, or let's take, for example, Monday morning.
Yeah.
I know I've got an extremely busy day. I've got 3 talks back to back, and then some really exciting things going on in the afternoon. I wake up at between 5:30 and 6 o'clock without an alarm. It's just something I've always done. What breathwork technique would you recommend? If I get up, go downstairs, I'll have my glass of water, hydration, vitamins. What breathwork technique would you recommend if then after that I'm then going to go to the gym, then start my day?
Yeah, I usually take people through a flow, so it's not just one technique, and it also comes back to how do I want to feel.
Okay.
So we've got an app, and inside our app is like there's loads of different exercises. There's waking up exercises, and some are more energetic, some are more calming. It again depends on what you're working on. That might be that day or week or month, and what theme is happening in your life at that time. If you're waking up feeling a little bit anxious for that day ahead, you need to calm down, or if you're wanting to wake up and be like, I'm ready to go. A safe bet would be what we talked about before, box breathing. So I'd say stop, pause, start your day. Now, I'm all about building habits as well. So if you said, I was doing it, I've dropped off, I'm not doing it anymore, I want to do it, let's start on Monday, which sounds so like me because I'm always like, I'll do it on Monday. Monday's always a nice starting block instead of starting on the weekend or whatever. But what that would look like for me is just up, move to another room so you're not doing it in bed because you fall back asleep. Just sit there. That might just be in a chair. You don't need to sit in lotus pose or anything like that. Just sit there, close your eyes, feel for a moment, like feel what's going on in my body. In that moment, all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what? Maybe I've got a bit of a twinge or a little injury here if I've been training. You can start to feel that we don't often feel those aspects because we're up, out, training, out the door, at work, and we're not stopping and just listening to your body. So I'd say stop for a second, listen to your body. That can take all of 3 seconds if you want. I'm here, okay, I'm here fully present. Take 3 grounding breaths, so that we did at the beginning. Am I breathing using my diaphragm? And I tend to just open up the sections. So in that moment, I'll stop, I'll pause, I'll breathe into the base of my spine, my pubic bone, my hips, my belly button. side ribs, midsection, all the way up into the chest. So it's an over-exaggerated breath, but just really like my breath is here. Still breath out. Do that 3 times, and then move into a breath flow. Probably for yourself, I think box breathing would just be so simple and easy. So just do like 4 rounds of box breathing. Keep it super manageable and achievable. So you've got your 3 grounding breaths, 4 rounds of box. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Then just stop and pause at the end. So this will probably take you 2 minutes, this whole thing. Stop and pause at the end, drop into your heart, think about your day ahead, a little mental rehearsal. What do I want to go well today is often the question that I'll ask. What would make today great is often, or how can I show up today? Or just anything that can like send you into this projection of what's my day ahead, how can I mentally rehearse it, and how do I want to show up? Which version of me do I want to be today? Because otherwise we're just at the mercy of what's happening. So I like to think of it as almost just like centering yourself. 3 breaths, move into some box breathing, take a moment to center yourself. Say like, yeah, I'm here and this is the me that I identify with today. Like, I've got this. I feel strong. I feel confident. You might even want to say some of these words. Some of my practices, I'll do that. We'll say some words, or I'll just give people space to just land. And when we do that in the morning, it doesn't have to be from your mind, and that's the whole point. It's like this voice from within. If we can tap into that inner voice, like, who do I want to be today? You know, I want to be calm. I've got 3 podcasts coming out, 3 talks. I want to feel calm, but I want to feel alert, and I want to feel fully present so I can listen, and I want to feel focused and energized. And you can say those words in the present. I am those things now. And then usually a bit of gratitude. It's like, think of someone in your life you're grateful for, because your whole body shifts again into the state of gratitude. So, or just think of something you're grateful for that day, and that might be something simple, like grateful for my breath, I'm grateful for hot water or cold water or whatever it is, and then get up and go. So I've explained that sort of in length, but that process could be 2 minutes. And if that's a CEO or anybody, I'd say creating that space in your morning to have those 2 minutes, ideally 5 minutes, but I'd rather you do the habit. And the habit, even if you're like, I'm not sticking to this, if you do that for a week and then it drops off, just get up and say, right, I'm going to do 3 breaths. When I wake up, I'm going to do 3 breaths before I leave the house. And it could be that simple, but it's with intention again. And then you can go to the gym. So that I'm similar to yourself. For me, the morning is like my big win. If I win the morning, I have won the day. And that little part of it is so important. So important, because otherwise you become a little bit reactive. You can get to the gym, your mind's going, you maybe been on your phone already, and you're not in a proactive state. You're not starting your day in your strength and power. You're kind of handing it over to whatever else is there. So that's what I'd say is a morning practice. Sometimes I'll go through different phases. So in January, with our community on our app, we do a whole month of manifestation. So I use a bit more of a dynamic breath work together, and it will shift your brain waves and move us into a lucid state, where then we do a meditation, and you're thinking about not just that day ahead, you're thinking about, well, what is it? What's my goal? What's my dream? And arriving in that space, in that meditation. And it can be so powerful, because we're starting again, we're aligning our energy, our thoughts and actions with the version of us that we want to be now. And that's really the tool for manifestation, or the tool for just getting the anxieties and the thoughts, the negative thoughts out of the way, and just arriving into like, who is Stuart? Who do I want to be today? And that is just so empowering. And once we can nail that part of our day, then it doesn't matter. It's like we've got our force field on. It doesn't matter what happens. Everything will bounce off you. You don't care as much for things that don't matter, but you care way more for the things that do matter. So it's a powerful way to start the day for sure.
I can't wait to try it on Monday.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'd say if it's something that you feel like would drop off, just make it simple. That's what I'd say. Make it simple at first. That might just be doing those 3 grounding breaths and not the rest of it. 3 grounding breaths, arrive in your body, what do I want from today? Who do I want to be today?
I think the issue with me in the morning is, and this goes back to, I don't want to get to 85 years old and look back and just think it just went like that, is I'm in a rush.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it dropped out. I think the habit of going to the gym will always remain, because I go to the gym on the way to the office and it's just, go do my workout, feel good. Whereas obviously taking a moment to do the breath work, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. So that, I think that's why I struggle to make it a habit. But obviously, based on what we've just said, we can see the impact and why it is so important.
Well, something interesting there you mentioned is I'm always in a rush. And probably a lot of people can identify that. Not enough hours in the day, the words we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by people that just do a lot in a day. I don't know, so Elon Musk, how the hell is he getting all that stuff done? Yeah, he's got a team and whatnot. But our perception of time, if we're in a rush, that's actually lack. We're creating lack. We're not creating abundance. We're creating lack of time. So we're already creating this stress response in our body, that rush, lack of time. I don't have enough time. So we need to rush. We need to speed up. But when we use our breath, we actually slow down and we can start to create more space and time. There's some amazing research around how our brain triggers each moment in time. Now, one of those triggers is breath. Yeah, we've got circadian rhythms, we've got light and things that will start to clock, the ticking clock. We don't have a clock in our brain, do we? We don't have an actual ticking clock. But one thing is, every breath that we take tells our brain that that's the next moment in time. Okay, so we take a breath and the brain says, oh, that's a new moment in time. So what's happening when you're rushing, you tend to be breathing faster. So time's going quicker in your brain, in your perception. Time's flying by because we're breathing quicker. So the brain thinks, oh, it's the next moment, it's the next moment, it's the next moment, and we're flying through. When we come back to slow our breath down, when we even sit in, people find meditation and breathwork hard because the brain's saying, go, 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 go. Well, I've got too much to do to stop and pause and breathe. I've got to be at the gym. I've got a full day ahead. Exercising that stillness of mind, exercising almost boredom in a way, like sitting, being with thought, being with your breath, starts to slow down that ticking clock. It's like when we've all had those jobs where you're checking the clock every 2 minutes, like, oh my God, how's the time going so slowly? Because we're maybe not doing as much in that role and we're finding it harder, we're feeling very bored, we're not stimulated. But the other way happens too. If we've got so much going on, we're creating this rush mentality, then we're creating lack in our lives around time. And that can be shifted again with a daily practice.
Amazing. One last question before we finish.
We did have something else I wanted to share before that.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Because we talked about the CEO, but we didn't talk about the athlete.
Yes, please do.
And it's, without opening a whole new can of worms, but I'm just fascinated by this as well.
I'm interested to hear about.
Yeah, so the athlete work, yes, I might do some of the work we talked about, because if an athlete's still holding on to tension or trauma, they're not going to perform at their best. But there's also ways we can use our breath as a performance enhancement tool, both on the preparation to prime our body for whatever given sport that is, and then also on the rest and recovery piece. So the athletes, I'll look at, well, what's your breathing like? Do we need to tweak anything? But then we use breath. We start to use breath as a performance tool in a priming sense. Also look at their breath during their given sport. Are they breathing optimally for their sport? Like, can that be tweaked? And then the final piece is that, are they using their breath to rest and recover? Or is their rest and recovery doing a stretch while they're scrolling on their phone or whatever? So really tuning in, fine-tuning into these aspects, these three parts of the performance lens. Now, we talked about sort of this more rapid breathing, dropping carbon dioxide, moving us into this lucid state. We can use our breath in a state of what we call hypoxia, which is breath hold, slowing the breath right down. And what happens is carbon dioxide is acidic. So if we breathe too fast, carbon dioxide drops, the body becomes alkaline. If we hold our breath, carbon dioxide increases, the body becomes acidic. Now, the body doesn't like to move its pH range too far out of natural balance, and it will do things to shift that. So if we, even going back to stress, if we're stressed all day, breathing faster, carbon dioxide's dropped because we're stressed, and the breathing is changed the rhythm, so then the body will start to hold on to acidity to balance the pH at this rate. And we carry on breathing at that rate, but our pH is balanced, but we're holding on to more acidity to balance the pH that's driven by our breath. That make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why people who are stressed or find breathing quite hard to slow their breath down, they find it hard because their brain is telling them to breathe because the carbon dioxide's elevating quicker. Oops, sorry, not hit the mic. The other side of that is where I work with athletes. Can we actually bring carbon dioxide up as a training mechanism to stress the body? And what happens then is the body says, oh, I'm too acidic. Oh, I don't like this. What am I going to do? Well, let's create more red blood cells. So EPO, erythropoietin, in the bone marrow starts to create more red blood cells. Red blood cells are the carrier oxygen cells. So in one breath, we get more output. So what I work with athletes for is, in essence, a lot of athletes will go and train at altitude or do these things, and that's the same thing, but we can do this at sea level. And it's basically a training program that usually takes 4 weeks of doing different breath hold, breath retention, adding it to a normal fitness program or training program. It's great for endurance, if there's high roxers or crossfitters or running, any given sport really. I did some work with the Olympic rowers on it. It was like, how do we actually maximize our VO2 max? How do we really, really push our delivery of oxygen? And that's about stressing the body, creating more red blood cells, so that we have more output from one breath and we can get more power and output. So that's the piece leading up to a given competition, because it takes 4 weeks to adapt. So usually time it in somebody's program. Then it's, whether it's race day or whatever, competition day, we've tweaked to work their breathing. And then afterwards, after training or after competition, it's about how do we fully recover and go on some of these more relaxing techniques, making sure that we're getting the deepest sleep we possibly can, making sure that our muscles are getting fully recovered through different breath techniques that can shift the system back into this rest, digest, repair mode.
You would never thought in a million years that there is that much in depth that you can do with breathing work.
Yeah.
You know, anxiety, sleep, performance, being present, everything. It's absolutely fascinating. It's blown my mind. It really has. I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing everything that you've shared, because I know that everybody listening to this is going to benefit from it in such a significant way for the various different reasons in which somebody can have an impact. So thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. I could talk all day about this stuff.
No, I love it. I wish we had more time.
Just a quick one. Most of you watching this episode aren't yet subscribed. So if you want your weekly motivation from some incredible guests, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on.
Just one last question. How old were you when your girlfriend sadly passed away?
I was 33.
33?
Yeah.
If you could go back to 33-year-old Stuart after that happened, what would you say to him?
It's a great question. Breathe. I'd probably go and do this breathing work, basically. It's interesting. Yeah. I thought I had it all together, and little did I know I was holding on to a lot. But I was coping. And very positive person generally, and it was just that experience that opened this catalyst. So it probably would be as simple as like breathe. Because but to be honest, if somebody said that to me going through grief, if it wasn't me just finding this thing for my mum and somebody came to me and said, breathe, I would have said, go fuck yourself. I don't know. I would have said, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I would never, ever have thought that just breathing had the ability to work through the trauma, work through these all the stuff that we talked about. I never thought about it. And unfortunately now breathwork's a thing. And that was always my mission with my business, BreathPod. How do we get this out there to as many people as possible, and give people the ability to access these tools? And most gyms now will have some sort of breathwork, or you can find it in most cities, which is amazing. So there's a load of breathwork instructors out there as well. So I think it's the perception of breathing shifted in this time. But yeah, I think it would be trying to speak to that version of me and let them know there's a way that you don't have to do it alone. That was the other thing, because I was so stuck in this, like, I can do it, I'll fix myself. And then in the end, I was by breathing. And that's the empowering thing about breathwork, is you do the work. You can be given the tools, but then you go and do the work. And if that's you wanting to wake up with more presence, you need to do the work. And the work is sitting and breathing and creating that space for you. But only you can do that. And once you do that and you get the momentum and you start to feel a bit better, and that's the case with me. I had that experience, that fireworks experience at first, but then I did more of it and I started to notice different changes and more changes. And I still have a daily practice every single day. And if I've gone through grief again recently. A friend of mine passed away, sadly. And I went back into my process. How do I, noticing that I'm still holding it together, because that's still how I manage things. But then I have this space and tool that I can use to feel what I need to feel. Long answer to your simple question there.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Breathe, younger Stuart.
Breathe. Breathe. No, thank you, Stuart, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for giving up your time in such a busy schedule and sharing your story and sharing how you overcame that adversity, turning that pain into purpose, and getting to where you are now, and all the amazing work that you're doing. I think it's incredible. So thank you very much, mate.
Oh, pleasure. And if anyone does want to explore breathwork, we've got our app as well, and I can share the details with you.
For people that don't have you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so on social media, most active on Instagram @BreathPod. The app is called BreathPod as well. So BreathPod is where you'll find me on all these different things. But the app is a really nice tool, because it's not just, we've got hundreds of different sessions in all the different aspects that we talked about today. So stuff to find more calm and relaxation, stuff for focus, anxiety, stuff, exercises for sleep. There's loads of music on there as well. We've got a performance section, which we're building out some of these more performance techniques for breathing. And then there's more transcendent states for when we're working through different challenges. And we have a load of live sessions on there as well. So you can join me live.
I'm going to download it. Thank you.
Yeah, but one of the nice things on there is we've got a community aspect. So the whole community there of people, and everybody that seems to be in the community, it's just all wanting a little bit more. That might be more calm, or it might be achieving their goals. Everybody's got the same mentality, which is really nice. And I think that's been a really nice thing to nurture as well. So having this community of people there working through things, sharing their wins, sharing their experiences. And that's the beauty of this, is actually coming together and having that.
I love it. Stuart, thanks so much for your time, mate.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.